All right, everyone, welcome to this first episode of Locally Sourced EP. I'm Ray Jackson. Joining me for the first ever episode are the El Paso's own famous Los Photogs. How's it going, guys?
Yo.
Going good.
If I can get you guys just to go around, starting with Mark, and just introduce yourselves, give a little background on what you guys are doing, where you're from.
Mark Lambie, photojournalist for the El Paso Times. Been doing this for 24 years, 19 of them at the El Paso Times, and then 5 at the El Paso Inc. That's about it, man. My whole career's been here in El Paso.
Cool.
So.
And we'll get we'll go with Armando next, if that's cool.
I'm Armando Vela, photojournalist for El Diario del Paso newspaper. Been there 16 years. And before that, I've been doing it for 5 years for other publications. And that's pretty much where I'm at now.
And what about, and go Ace. Let's talk about yourself, man.
Ace Acosta, photojournalist for the El Paso Herald Post, going on 5 years, shooting since 2011. Yeah, that's me.
And George, go ahead and introduce yourself, man. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Jorge Salgado. I'm a photojournalist with the El Paso Inc. I've been there 5 years now. I've been shooting since 2013. Grew up in Illinois. I've been here since 2003, and loving it.
That's awesome, man. I'm glad to have you guys on. It's really cool to I was gonna ask, how did the Los Photogs thing start here in El Paso? I mean, how did that get started? Does anyone of you guys know?
I don't even remember how that got started.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I remember, I think we had said it was Los Photogs de El Paso, and then we just got tired of typing in that whole thing and just Los Photogs, trim it. But I mean, I guess all of us shooting together, being at all these events, we just kind of clicked and, get a nice little catchphrase, and it caught on, and Los Photogs.
If I remember correctly, there was a lot of steak and beer involved that night when we.
That's right. That
was that
Roadhouse, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
The secret revealed, huh? That's awesome. That's so cool. I was in media for a while too, and I missed that. Basically covering stories with you guys. I was able to cover a lot with Mark and with Armando. And I got to see Ace. I met Ace and George while I was with the video crew over at the Chihuahuas. But that is such a cool thing to still see that still happen. And just you guys just took it to a whole nother level with the hashtag. So that's so cool.
I guess it's the click.
Yeah.
It makes it easier to follow the post. You just click on it and be like, oh, okay, a lot of photos on there.
It's kind of nice.
People that I don't know.
Wait, go ahead,
Go, Bella.
People that I know that have come up to me and said, you're one of the Photogs. And that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
I like it that you go to a lot of other cities, dude, and photographers, especially photographers that come into town to cover the Sun Bowl or whatever, they're so hyper competitive with one another that they can't even be friends with each other. They're all competitive and insecure.
Yeah.
So we thought kind of cool that all of us could work for different publications and still
still mesh. Yeah, and still be hyper competitive. I mean, the competition level is always, it's just so cool that we can push ourselves to new levels and see who's going to get the shot.
Yeah, but that's what it is. It's you have all these guys that are making you better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the cool thing about it.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a ton of motivation. There's some points where I just kind of look to see what everyone shot. I'm not sure everyone else does that, and if they do, it's probably not in a healthy way. It's that real unhealthy competitiveness. I mean, and it's great to have a good camaraderie. I think we all communicate well. which is important. There's been a lot of times I think where a lot of us are on the same page trying to accomplish the same thing, just with different perspectives.
Yeah, that's cool. That still exists here in El Paso, man. I've ran across a few reporters and photogs like that in my day, and it just like it's like they didn't belong here. Then, and I'm all for competition and getting the shot, but the way some of these guys and these photogs and reporters try to do it, it's not worth it. And that's one thing that I didn't like in the business, but. It's just so cool to see you guys, and then you guys shoot such great shots. I mean, they're beautiful. Like I was showing some to my wife because I was telling her about this, and she was like, "Why are you so excited to talk to these guys?" And I showed her photos from everything you guys shot, especially from the past from the protests, and she was like in awe. She really loved your guys' shots.
Oh, cool.
And that brings me back to my next kind of questions. I'll start with George, if that's cool. Can you talk a little about covering the protests these past couple of days here in El Paso? What's that been like for you?
It's been interesting, especially where you have two really major events going on at the same time. You're trying to stay safe and keep a good personal distance from everybody. But there's some moments where you can get caught up in that competitiveness. I think perspective like Liba and Rocos. I was probably in a big huddle of a lot of people on Sunday. Been interesting. What I find most thing about it is how uniquely everyone's voicing opinion. I remember a lot about Ferguson. I remember staying up till 5, 6 that morning watching the protests happen the way it did, and that happened like sparingly in other cities, but to the way it's happened across the entire U.S. has been unique, and I think it's you see a lot of El Paso's personality and unique voices in that.
Right. Armando, what about you? How was it this past couple of days covering the protests here in El Paso?
Well, I've covered a lot of protests over the years, but these protests, they were scary, man. There was moments where I was actually scared in the crowd, and that's a first, because they were getting kind of possibility of getting violent, and some of them did, and that's the first time that I actually was scared a little bit, to be in a protest. And also worried about coronavirus, people so close to you,
Yeah.
It's really what how it was like.
What about for you, Ace? I know you were out there for a little bit shooting some shots. Tell me about your experience.
I mean, it was you kind of got to step back and focus at the task at hand. I mean, especially with the narrative of these protests. I mean, it's a very, very sensitive subject. Like Mondo and George said, there was some moments you're like, okay, this can really pop off. We're there trying to just capture it. I mean, it's not an easy subject, obviously, but we're just there trying to cover it as best as we can. And obviously, we'll still get heat for it regardless, because if you're one way or you post a certain photo a certain way, you're going to make some people happy and you're going to make some people upset. But that's our job. And I'm just glad everybody's safe doing it. Everybody, due to the circumstances, yeah, we got some great shots, but obviously, we wish it was under better terms. But I got to ask, Mondo, how the heck did you get behind the police barrier yesterday? That's all I got to know, because George and I turn around and look, and Mondo's over there, right there, just chilling next to the SWAT team out there. Did you see that, Mark? Did you see that, Mark? He was out there.
Walked in there, they didn't say anything. I wanted to get shots of them from the back. They didn't say anything to me.
I mean, I turn around, I look, and I mentioned to George, look at this dude. He's right there, right in the center.
That's the Los Photogs privileges, man.
No, that's Mondo's privileges right there.
Oh, Mondo was going to get in the SWAT truck and join him. I wasn't looking for what was going on.
Give me a vest.
I just you guys trying to get back there, man.
I was able to get back behind him on like the north side of Campbell, but not on Mills.
Oh.
Yeah. No, Mondo was right in the middle, like right there in his Chihuahuas gear. Shout out to the Chihuahuas, but I mean he was right there in the center. I was like,
Well,
well, Mark, what about you? How was it for you covering the protests this past couple of days?
it was awful. No, I'm kidding. It's kind of surreal, man, because you see that, like you see it on Twitter, like photographers in Minnesota shooting this stuff with like cops coming down the street pushing everybody, and you're like, you're looking at it like in complete disbelief because like this isn't really happening. You see things afar and it's like, whatever, it's happening, but when it comes to your city though, man, like I was shooting the cops as they were pushing the guys down the road, with their little barrier things, so I was right in the middle of it, and I got two little jabs from the old baton, nothing hard, like I'm not complaining, dude. You just at me gate.
Yeah.
But yeah, like these guys, just being pushed down the road downtown by cops with riot barriers, it was crazy. Yeah, like Bella said, like I've been covering protests in El Paso for 24 years now. So, but there's just completely different feel, a completely different energy at both of them.
Mm-hmm.
It was like real genuine anger and
No, you could feel it, man.
desperation, dude.
Wow.
So
that frustration.
Frustration. Yeah, there you go. That's probably the best word. But yeah, dude, like to document that though, I mean, that stuff. I always said when I got into photojournalism, like my dream someday is to see one of my photos used in historical context. You know what I mean? So like, then I mean, we're watching history right now for sure.
Yeah,
it's been kind of a weird past year because I mean, the virus. Two things that you usually have that are kind of defined within like a large span of time.
Mm-hmm.
You have that along with all the context of what happened on August 3rd, and it's just been like a complete whirlwind of emotions in the city, and seeing a lot of people like frustrated, and I don't know, it's pretty unique. You don't get a ton of a timeline like that. I mean, with a lot of unfortunate events.
Right. Well,
and August 3rd's coming up, so let's see how that's all going to go.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's going to be a lot of emotion here in El Paso with that anniversary coming up. So
August 3rd, and then November elections. Oh.
Yeah, I think that's going to have a big impact on the elections, man, for sure. And then just we'll just round it off here with this. Just like I know, well, all of you guys, most of you guys have been covering the pandemic, and we could just talk just a little tiny bit about that. I mean, I'll start with George. George, what's it been like covering the pandemic? What have you been covering, and how have you been protecting yourself? And
it's been weird, especially so the El Paso Times is a daily, El Paso Inc. is a weekly. Mm-hmm. So a lot of what we focus on are stories that we can really round up over the span of a week. Mm-hmm. And that just, that people haven't been able to see yet. Mark knows a lot about that. He spent just as much time there as I did with more responsibilities. So you kind of get a unique look at how much depth is going into the stories. And you get to spend a lot more time with a lot of unique people. For this, it's been tough because the dailies will beat us to everything. It'll either be on TV or it'll be in print by the time we get to it. If something happens on a Saturday, we come out Sunday, and you roll back 6 days and whatever story you've done has been touched usually. So it's just a matter of finding stories. Like we've been working hard on the Amazon story, so that one's been really important. Right now we're getting into a lot of depth with the coronavirus, and how it's affecting business and people. And so it's a lot more features as opposed to the hard news and social events that would be my usual weekly coverage.
Right. What about you, Mark? How's it been since over at the Times since like covering the pandemic, and what have you been doing, or like what have you been covering for that?
Every day since it's been pretty much constant coronavirus coverage for me. Mm-hmm. I've done a couple stories kind of on my own. I call them palate cleansers. Yeah. Because you got to step away from the negativity once in a while, you know.
Very true.
So I'm trying to squeeze in a couple feel good here and there, keep sanity. But yeah, it's been interesting. There's been a lot of unique challenges because access to people and places obviously is extremely limited, or was. It was a lot harder. I've had a lot of people help me out, do some favors for me, especially at a couple of hospitals. I have a really huge opportunity coming up that I can't really talk about right now, but hopefully that happens.
Ooh. Is that classified? Classified.
I just like want to get in my idea, and then yeah. So see, there's the competitiveness, but not in that way. Like I can't get all my ideas, right? But it's been hard. It's been trying to find all these shots that you have to get. Like you have, you know, a lot of what a lot of people don't know about a daily paper like the El Paso Times is each city is designated what's called a newspaper of record. So the El Paso Times is the newspaper of record for El Paso. So it's our job to accurately document what's going on. So I feel a certain pressure to make sure that it's fully documented. So there's certain pressures I put on myself, shots I feel like need to be what am I trying to say? Captured, I guess, and remembered. So it's been a big challenge, but it's just been one thing after another, man. Every time you think it's going to finally calm down, it's just one other thing.
Yeah.
You know?
That sounds
I'm just waiting for the swarm to look at the floods.
And it's crazy you guys are covering that. What about you, Armando? Briefly talk about how it's been covering the pandemic and stuff with you guys.
Well, like Mark said, it's been a challenge. It's different. This is the first time I ever covered a pandemic, you know, in El Paso. And it's been hard. You know, you got to worry about not getting sick, but you got to get the shots, you know, and that's all we've been doing is nothing but coronavirus, and now the riots and stuff, you know. But it's been different. It's been a challenge. But, you know, it's pretty interesting to cover that kind of stuff since we've never done it before.
Wow, that's crazy. Well, that's some pretty crazy stuff, man. Yeah, I mean, it's been a wild few months, at least just with the pandemic itself, and then just having to deal with everything going on right now with the protests and everything like that. But I'd say let's end this on a good note, if we can. I'm going to ask each one of you to go over one of the favorite things you've covered or an event you've covered during your career so far. And I'll start with Ace, man. Ace, talk a little about something that one of your favorite stories or features that you've been able to cover or shoot.
Well, you know what? I think Mark was there too. We're in different locations, but when the Pope came to Juarez, I mean, that one I think it's probably maybe maybe year 2 in the business. I mean, literally I think we got to where the press center like at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, waiting to see where we're going to go and everything. And it was just still chaos. You know, we didn't get assignments till that night before. Everybody thought they're going to cover multiple events. And then it was just, no, you got one. And then for my instance, we had airport arrival and departure. So we get there to our staging location, and then they go, oh, no, you're not doing airport arrival. You're only doing departure. And that's it. You guys got moved. And we're like, well, what do you mean? Our credential says this. And they're like, oh, no, well, they scrapped something. Just go and wait to the side. Now, granted, this was 6 o'clock in the morning. Departure's not till 6 o'clock at night. So we're like, okay, like, all right. It wasn't just us. It was maybe like 10 of us. So we're waiting. They load the first bus up. It's supposedly by seating numbers and whatnot. And we're still waiting, like, all right, these buses are about to take off to the airport because he's going to be arriving soon. So we're by the door, and then the second bus comes, and security looks at, because about 10 of us, looks at our passes, and they're like, all right, go to the second bus. And we all ran. Like, all right, here we go. So we make it out there. Just seeing him land, because I've never covered a Pope's visit. I think he might have came 20 years ago or so, I believe, maybe in the area, but it was just like a surreal experience, to see that you're with the international press and everybody. And we were told that he likes to make sudden stops. Like he gives his security headaches, but he'll just, stop.
Mm-hmm.
And he did. So when he's making the curve, he stops, gets down, gives a blessing to one of the childs, and then takes off. It just so happened, Alex, our reporter at the time, we had she had got some photo interviews with the actual person. So I mean, it was just a crazy cool experience. Seeing everybody's shots and just capturing that memorable event.
That's awesome, man. Well, I'll go with Jordan. Nick, Jordan, man, what's been something that you've covered that's been like one of your favorites, or something that's memorable to you?
I think the events that all coincided with Dr. Natalicio leaving UTEP, it was interesting to see how celebrated she was in the community. I think there was just like an overwhelming amount of love for her and appreciation. From the day she made the announcement, she kind of had her, like the sports farewell tour. To that last, one of my favorite photos is her giving that last handshake at graduation. And so seeing, I'm an alumni. I appreciated everything she did while she was there. And that's just kind of like a mutual feeling among the community. And it's definitely one of the more celebrated people that we've seen here in the most recent years.
Yeah, man, she was an icon, man. I mean, everyone knew who she was, even if they didn't even go to UTEP. They knew who she was. I had a chance to shoot some photos of her for Latino magazine, and she was super nice, and she was a great person.
Yeah, there's a universal respect for her that I think is like you really see when you're like getting to see how much she does and how much she's accomplished in her time here.
Yeah. I'll go with Armando. Armando, what's something that you've covered, or an event, something that's much memorable to you?
Well, the Walmart shooting, because I was there. That's the most memorable thing I've shot, but it wasn't easy. It was hard. It wasn't a good thing, but just being there and seeing all that, I never thought that would happen in El Paso. Like we all never thought, but that has to be the top. I've covered a lot of stuff, a lot of memorable stuff, good things. But unfortunate that it had to be, the Walmart shooting. And just being there so close, it hits you pretty hard. You see that on TV about shootings in other places and stuff. And, I never thought much about it. But when it happens to you,
right?
You don't know how you're going to react. And, that really got to me. But that has to be it.
That's crazy, man. I think all of El Paso was in shock when that happened, and I'm pretty sure all of you guys I know you guys didn't experience firsthand like Armando did, but you guys covered it, and I know it was. I'm pretty sure it was emotional just to be there.
It was. While I was there, while I was shooting and taking pictures, it didn't register what was going on because I was too busy doing my job, but when I left, that's when it really hit me, and I had to go home for a little bit because I didn't think I was going to react like that,
Right.
And I had to leave for a little while, and I came back, continue the coverage, but it was hard.
Yeah. It's like one of the, it's like one of those events. Nice cat. It's like the cat from Lady in the Tramp.
Mark's got a whole range of animals, huh, Mark?
Show you animals all night.
Well, that's my next segment. Mark's Mark's pets at his house.
I have 12 koi fish in my pond that are all named Carlos, by the way.
Nice.
My daughter named them.
Carlos or Carlitos?
No, they're all named Carlos, every one of them.
She must be a fan of George Foreman, huh?
You really phoned it in on that one, yeah.
Well, Mark, last but not least, man, tell us something that memorable you've covered, or something, one of your favorite things you.
I mean, it's hard to not go with the Walmart shooting. But I'll just for the sake of saying something else, I'll go with the migrant crisis. That one took a lot out of me, man. And I covered that for a solid year, like 3 days a week in Juarez, long nights sitting on the Juarez side of the Rio Grande, photographing dads piggybacking their kids, their babies across rivers, dude. Kids screaming as they're having wristbands put on their wrists by Border Patrol, and migrant shelters that are just packed to the gills, and people sleeping on top of each other, and I've never, and seeing all those people packed under the Paso del Norte bridge, that they put up basically a chain link cage in 40-degree temperatures, and a bunch of Central Americans under a bridge, little kids, parents, families. I shot one photo of these two little kids, and, they're behind rows and rows of concertina wire and chain link, and that image will never leave my brain. That one fucked me up pretty good. But yeah, that story changed my life, and not in a good way. So
Seemed like a part. It changed my life. It really got to me, man.
Yep.
I had dreams. I had to get help.
Yeah. I didn't see Armando was there at Walmart, man. Like, right. He was there. Like, he was already there, and the video that he captured, unbelievable. I mean,
I know
what some people don't realize is what this profession does to us. When you think about like the Walmart shooting as a story, you think of it, okay, they went to Walmart on the 3rd and they took photos of people freaking out, but that's not the truth. We spent the next 6-8 months at funerals doing interviews with families who lost their loved ones. Constant bombardment of negativity and pain and suffering, and that's basically what the last year and a half has been in El Paso. And so
2020 is a year to remember, man.
We're actually coming up on the 2-year anniversary of the Tornillo event, which I mean, that kind of triggered everything. That's been like this whirlwind of sadness. So, Ray, I know we were trying to end on a good note, but this is like a big reality of what this job is like.
There's no, I mean,
it's been nothing but negatives. Bad things happen.
It's very traumatic. I remember after August 3rd itself felt like it was a week long. The way the day went down, and it caught everyone off guard, and all the unfortunate news that just continued to roll out through that day. I remember like being at Horizon High School for the memorial at what I believe at the time was the youngest victim, and it was you see thousands of high school kids not understanding why someone would come and kill their friend, and like sometimes you're in those moments and you're like,
Right.
you're shooting, there's like tears rolling down your eyes and trying to keep your composure and also trying to understand what happened, and at the same time trying to tell a story so that everyone can see that this was like one of the biggest things that happened here and so unfortunate.
Well, I mean, I'm glad you guys are sharing, because I mean, sometimes I think the perspective that people have here in El Paso is that, like, if you work for the press, for the news, that it's easy, or you get paid a lot. And I've had to like reality check some people, because they're like, "Oh, why did you leave the news? Didn't you make a lot of money?" I'm like, "Oh no, like no way." And then they have no idea the emotional toll it can put on someone. Like especially us shooters, the photographers, they're usually the ones there first. And then you guys are a testament to it, because I mean, just the raw emotion I get just sitting here listening to you guys, I kind of like almost forgot how emotionally draining it could be. And I honestly really just want to thank you for you guys sharing your stories and being so emotional and just showing your passion for your craft. I mean, like I said in the beginning, you guys shoot such great photos, and it really comes through. And just hearing you guys talk about it, talk about the stories, talk about the emotion that comes behind it, it just makes me feel so good, and I feel the emotion through your photos. And it just talking to you guys there, it's even more so now. So I really like to thank you guys for sharing this and talking with me today. Just real quick, anything else you guys want to say or add about, I mean, anything really?
Well, I just on the whole thing of like documenting things like the Walmart shooting and things like that, is like the public really needs to understand that we're not there for our enjoyment. We don't want to be there. Like, we really don't want to be there. You know, like we were at the protest last night, and some people would think, oh, all the photographers are just, you know, hoping that this thing turns violent and, you know, tear gas starts so they get great photos. But that's like you know, after covering that thing last night, was that last night? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, last night.
It was a week ago. We all kind of fell back about 30, 40 feet behind the crowd, and we were all just kind of standing there taking a little break talking, and we're like, please don't get violent. Please don't get, but like, we're just, and people think that we go out and try to like take advantage of people, or like, you know, use their suffering for profit. And that's not it at all. It's that, you know, it's history and it needs to be documented. That's what we're doing.
Anyone else want to say anything before?
Yeah, I just want to let everybody know, you know, support your local, you know, news outlets. You know, even though we all work, you know, for different publications, you know, the support helps us, you know, cover all these events. You know, put on good products. You know, what the Times does with the Ink, El Diario, what we do at the Post. I mean, and especially like any other publications, you know, TV and all that. Support is needed. I mean, people complain like, oh, well, you guys are not reporting this. How come you guys are not covering this? You know, for like Mark's example, it's him and Brianna too. I mean, we're not even touching the sports season yet. There's 32 high schools out here, plus political events, plus, you know, any other special events on that. It's you know, we need the city and, you know, to support your publications. I mean, yeah, it's good, you know, to get your news all around, but, you know, you gotta keep it local, because I mean, if we have to go, I mean, then what happens? I mean, we all try hard to put out our best work, and, you know, we just, you know, need some support, just like in anything, you know, restaurants, all that, you know, try to keep it local.
And that's exactly what I'm trying to do too, man. Trying to keep this local. George, anything else you want to say or add before we end today?
Just to touch a little bit on what Mark was saying, you know, as much bad news as there is, we really want to bring you good news. I remember I saw Mark's story about the COVID patient that I believe was in there 40 plus days. Like, you want to hear those stories. Those stories are important to the community. Those stories bring hope. When, you know, since the beginning of March, we've just seen nothing but tragedy and horrific numbers and a lot of negative energy being put out. So we want to bring good news. This isn't like, there's no glorification of the bad news, but the bad news is what it is. You have to report it. If we report on the cops doing something bad, we have to report on whatever else happens that's bad in the community, whether it's politicians or whether it's everyday citizens or whether it's businesses. But at the end of the day, like it's a lot about accountability, and if you you have to hold everybody accountable equally.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a very good point, and it's true. Just I hate that thing that everyone thinks the press is just out there for negativity, and it just half the time it's because sometimes that's the only thing out there, and it just really sucks.
I have a great way. So I explained it this way once. If I'm photographing a UTEP playing in a bowl game, which unlikely, sure, but
Hey, keep the faith. Keep the faith. Keep the faith.
If they win, I'm going to photograph them celebrating and jumping around and hugging each other. If they lose, I'm going to photograph them hugging and crying and doing that. And I'm not photographing them hugging and crying to be a jerk and put the camera in their face at a bad time of their lives. Mm-hmm. But that's what happened. Like, and it's not my fault. Like, I'm just like, you wouldn't be upset if I was photographing you celebrating. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Either way, I'm going to celebrate your reaction to whatever happened. That's my job. So
nicely put.
We have to document the city's reaction to what's going on in the world, and that's
good or bad. We got to cover it, you know.
Armando,
Bella?
Go for it.
Good or bad, we have to cover it no matter what it is.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say, Rad, before we end, Armando?
I'm just glad to be part of Los Photogs. You know, these guys are incredible. And I can't wait to our cookout Saturday.
oh yeah, that Mark, you want to explain that to Mondo? He kind of left early.
What are you going to cancel or what?
Yeah.
Somebody forgot they're going camping.
Oh, postpone.
I gotta go hug some.
That steak, man. Those steaks that Mark makes. Woo!
It's crazy. But don't worry. Hey, don't worry. We love to take photos of our food. So
nice.
Just stay tuned. Stay tuned.
I'm gonna have to invite myself maybe, but
hey, bring some steak and some drinks. Come on down.
Sounds good. Well, guys, I'd like to thank you for joining me today. This has been awesome. Like I really appreciate it. I hope maybe we can get together in the future and do this again. Just talk about. Hopefully, we'll talk a little bit of better news, and if not, we'll just talk about what we've been covering. Man, I really appreciate you guys for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
I'll go ahead and put everyone's social media info on the bottom. They can follow you guys.
Cool.
I'll try to put it there, Ace, but I don't know if I'll be able to.
Hey, you have years of experience in your video production, buddy. Come on.
Don't say that.
All right. Huh?
No, but,
everybody go follow Ray Works Productions right there. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Right. Comic-Con. And really go subscribe to the Times, you know, the Ink, El Diario, Post. I mean, it's if you can buy some Starbucks coffee, you can subscribe to, you know, these publications.
I agree. Well put. This has been great, guys. I mean,
it's one cup.
Well, guys, again, again, guys, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. We'll talk again soon. Thanks for joining me on Locally Sourced.
Thanks, Ray.
Peace out.
Thank you.